$20,000. That was roughly the advertised price when this Japanese house was reviewed. Behind a modest exterior is a two-story family home with traditional rooms opening toward a wooden veranda, enough space to imagine daily life rather than a weekend project, and a railway station close enough to make the location feel connected rather than remote. For an international buyer, that picture can become convincing very quickly. A home in Japan, a second residence, perhaps a renovation with room for guests. The price makes the idea feel unusually accessible. Then one small detail in the listing changes the entire investigation. But the same listing mentions something much smaller than the house. The road in front is only about 8 feet wide. That single detail does not prove the property has a defect. It proves the listing is not enough to tell the buyer what this house can support in the future. Before budgeting the renovation, the buyer has to answer a more basic question: what legal access and future building rights actually come with the property? Because owning the house is not the same as proving that it can be adapted, rebuilt, financed, and later sold according to the buyer's plan. A road can be visible from the front door and still leave important questions unanswered. Is it public or private? What is its official legal classification? How much of the parcel legally touches it? Are access rights registered? And would any setback be required before future building work could be approved? Those answers can change far more than vehicle access. They may affect demolition logistics, construction access, the scale of the renovation, the possibility of replacing the house, and the confidence of a future lender, insurer, or buyer. A cheap house can remain usable today while carrying a much weaker future exit than the listing suggests. The answer does not come from measuring the pavement alone. It comes from matching the cadastral map, the land registry, the official road record, and the boundary survey to the house that actually stands on the site. The buyer needs written confirmation of the road category, legal frontage, access rights, and any conditions that would apply if the building were altered or replaced. Only then can an architect or contractor test a realistic scope of work. Until that evidence is assembled, a renovation estimate may price the rooms and roof, while ignoring the legal geometry controlling the entire project. That is why the narrow road remains the central question, rather than one item on a long inspection list. Then comes the house itself. It was built in 1968, before Japan's major seismic code transition in 1981. That date does not prove the house is unsafe. It tells the buyer that the listing year is only a starting point, and that present structural performance has to be established through evidence. What supports the timber frame? Are there stone footings, isolated concrete supports, a continuous foundation, or later structural work? Are the wooden sill plates mechanically anchored? Are the connections intact? A foundation may exist without the anchorage or continuity expected in a modern retrofit strategy. The same applies above the floor. The buyer needs to know whether the walls, bracing, roof, and connections create a continuous load path. And after more than half a century, were walls removed, openings enlarged, or additions connected in ways that changed how the house behaves? A clean interior cannot answer those questions. Then there is condition. Roof leaks, trapped moisture, timber decay, and termite damage can change both the repair sequence and the structural scope. But age alone cannot prove any of them. The correct move is not to assume the worst. It is to inspect the roof, attic, underfloor spaces, drainage, and timber before pricing the project. A renovation budget can also fail before the finishes begin. The listing does not establish the working condition of electricity, water, gas, drainage, or wastewater treatment. Restoring a service, replacing obsolete equipment, or discovering that the site uses a different wastewater system can change both the schedule and the usable plan. The property is also described as having a separate storage building or annex. That may look like extra usable space, but the buyer still has to verify whether it is included in the sale, correctly registered, structurally independent, legally built, and permitted for the use being imagined. Extra floor area is not automatically extra value. The listing also promotes guest house or short-term rental potential. That language creates interest, not permission. The buyer still has to verify zoning, fire access, exits, management requirements, waste, noise rules, and the specific approval route. A possible business use becomes valuable only when the property and the operating plan can legally support it. At this point, the investigation is no longer asking whether the house looks worth $20,000. It is asking whether the ownership system can carry the buyer's plan. The road, structure, utilities, and permitted use are not separate warnings. They are connected conditions determining what the property can become. That changes how the budget should be built. The purchase price is only one line. Before relying on it, the buyer must confirm what can legally be transferred through the land and building records, including the registered owner, any secured rights, and the status of the annex. The same file should establish the assessed values behind registration costs, acquisition taxes, and annual property taxes. For an overseas owner, the equation also includes the local work that begins after closing: receiving notices, arranging inspections, supervising repairs, protecting the house during vacant periods, and responding when something fails. None of these responsibilities proves the property is a bad purchase. Together, they show why a $20,000 advertisement cannot yet reveal the complete cost of ownership. Financing cannot be assumed either. Terms can depend on the buyer, the lender, the age and condition of the building, legal access, intended use, and future marketability. Insurance can involve a different assessment. The key point is not that this house will be refused. It is that those decisions should be tested before the project depends on them. The same evidence matters when the buyer eventually wants to sell. A future buyer may ask the same questions about access, rebuilding, structure, services, and permitted use. If the answers remain unclear, the resale market may be smaller, the negotiation harder, and the low purchase price less meaningful than it first appeared. So before contract, the buyer needs more than photographs and a low price. The essential package includes land and building registry records, the official road position, access rights, frontage and setback information, building records, alteration history, a qualified structural inspection, utility evidence, tax documents, and confirmation of the intended use. Then the decision becomes clearer. Can the missing evidence be obtained before contract? And once the consequences are verified, do they still fit the intended use, the total budget, and the exit plan? If they do, the buyer may proceed. If the project changes, the price can be renegotiated or the plan restructured. If a critical unknown cannot be resolved, walking away remains a rational outcome. This house may still be a genuine opportunity, but a cheap Akiya is not simply a discounted building plus a renovation bill. It is an ownership system. Its real value depends on verified rights, physical capacity, permitted use, and a workable exit. Before calling the house a bargain, the buyer has to price the responsibility being transferred with it. If this kind of property risk breakdown helps you think more clearly before buying, you can support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone evaluating real estate, or leaving a comment with the type of property risk you want to see next. It helps the channel grow and tells YouTube that serious property due diligence matters.